I reviewed the M1 MacBook Pro a few weeks ago, and I had several folks ask what Windows laptops are geared towards creatives. Enter the HP Zbook line. This is the HP Zbook Create G7. Hello, my name is Brad, and I review tech for creative professionals. This is a Windows laptop. Unlike many of the other devices I've reviewed on this channel, this does not come with a pen. What I'm using here is an external display. This is the XP Pen Artist 22 that I reviewed earlier this week. And of course, you can hook up anything to this, whether it's a Wacom tablet, something like an Intuos, or anything along those lines. Since this is a higher-end laptop, I was a little bit curious what separates it from some of the other lower-end, less expensive products out there. So let's jump in and check out some of the specs. Now usually, when I go over the specs in this section of most of my videos, I tell you which configurations are available. But like many of HP's laptops, this doesn't have like a preset configs like Microsoft Surface line. This thing is super configurable. So I'll put a link down below in the description if you want to see all of the options that you could throw into one of these laptops. So what configuration did I go with? Well, I prize RAM over processing. So I have a mid-level 10th gen Intel i7 chip in this thing. You can start with an i5, it can go all the way up to an i9. I like RAM because I like to run all of my apps at once. For example, the animated art tutorials I do on my second channel. Okay, you could stay, but you need to behave.
You need to behave.
I use Premiere Pro at the beginning and the end for audio editing and then for finally putting the entire video together. But I export that audio and then pull that into Adobe Animate. In the meantime, I'm often drawing in Photoshop, cropping images, pulling them in, moving back and forth between Photoshop and Animate. Sometimes while I'm working on it, I might think, hey, this is going to be a lot better with the sound effects. So I'll jump back into Premiere, add my sound effects in there. So I'm constantly bouncing between really big programs that are sucking up a lot of system resources. Having a computer that lets me do that is nice. So how much RAM do I have in this computer? Right now I have 16 gigabytes, but you could go higher or even lower if you want. So the storage itself starts out at 256 gigabytes, goes all the way up to 2 terabytes with a lot of options in between. One extravagance that I don't really need, but is nice to have, is the graphics card. This is an RTX 2070 Max-Q. That's a big part of the price of this laptop. I know some creatives, especially those who do a lot of 3D work, often go with gaming laptops because, hey, it gets the job done, and gaming laptops perform really well. There are some compromises in this that you don't see in gaming laptops necessarily. This is thinner. It's maybe a little bit lighter than a gaming laptop would be, so it's easier to fit in your bag, take it with you. The trade-off you make there, however, are in the thermals. The smaller a laptop is, the less air you're gonna get through it. The less air you get through it, the hotter it's gonna get. So how does the computer compromise in that situation? Well, what it ends up doing is it ends up throttling down the processor so you're not creating as much heat. Now, I don't do a lot of 3D work, but I found some other ways to test that out. Found some things that kind of fit my interest. In Cyberpunk, I ended up bumping down the resolution to 1080 and it ran really well for a good amount of time. I've been spoiled by the new M1 MacBooks. The lack of fan noise has been a huge plus for me. Now, the fan on this does kick in from time to time. Obviously, the more you really drive this thing, the more you're going to hear that fan. When gaming, the fan was on pretty much all the time. When I was working though, I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't kick on nearly as much as it has on other Windows laptops I've tried, which really surprised me given that this thing is pretty thin. Also, it didn't get super hot when it was in my lap. So how they're getting the heat away from the processors and how this whole thing is working and designed is pretty impressive. I mentioned my workflow for making animated tutorials a minute ago. There's a lot that goes into those. Most of it is just organizing everything. To help with that, I've been using something called Milanote, who is the sponsor of today's video. I've used a lot of project management software, and what I like about Milanote is how visual it is. It feels like I'm pinning stuff to the wall of my studio, and it gives me a bird's eye view of the whole project. I can make a board for every episode. I can collect inspiration for new characters or scenes in a mood board. I can store my scripts, and Milanote is easy to use. I like that it feels like a free-form canvas that I can add to and let just grow organically as the project starts to take shape. Now, as that second channel continues to grow, I can see myself bringing in others to help with production, like the voice actor who played the Sphere in a recent episode.
I declare a rap battle!
Each one of my projects starts with a mix of inspiration, references, and ideas, and when I started, I would just jump straight into animating things. I was a little too excited. Only to run into issues that could have been avoided with better planning. Milanote is the workspace for everything that happens before that first frame is animated. Check out the link down below in the description to try Milanote today and let me know what you think. This is a really nice laptop. This is on par with what Microsoft is doing with their Surface line, and comparable in many ways to the build quality of the MacBook. It's also on the thinner side, not super light though. It's coming in a little over 4 pounds, so it's got some heft to it. It's the details that make this computer feel really good. The way that the lid has some weight to it, so it can be opened with one finger, and then it closes so satisfyingly. There aren't a lot of extra seams here. It's well vented with side vents and also air intakes along the bottom. It's held off your desk with these little rubbery plastic bars. Most of the body is aluminum, but the bottom feels, I bet this is magnesium. It almost feels like plastic. That's not a bad thing. Aluminum gets hotter than this material, so if you're using a laptop on your lap, you'll appreciate that. Now, I mentioned these details. Even the Intel sticker is tasteful. They moved the Windows sticker along the bottom where you won't see it all the time. The keyboard itself feels really good. I enjoyed typing on this. Wrote the whole script on the laptop and have no complaints there. Let's check out the ports. This is the power port, and then next to it you have two USB-C Thunderbolt ports. You also have a mini display port and an SD card slot. Yay! Do I always sound like Kermit the Frog when I cheer? Along the other side, there's a USB Type A and a headphone jack. There aren't a ton of ports here, but what is here is exactly what I would use. I really miss having SD card slots on modern Macs. There's some rumors they might be coming back, but I'll believe it when I see it. Like most laptops, this is still rocking a 720p webcam, but this cam can be used for facial recognition to log you in your laptop. If you don't want to go that route, there's also a fingerprint reader. And do you like power bricks? This has a power brick. Just make sure you save your room and your bag for this guy. The screen really does look terrific. Now, there's different variations of this screen. I went with the higher end screen. If you want to save some money, you could jump down to that 1080 screen. This here is a 15.6 inch 4K display. The colors on this thing look really good. It also gets up to 600 nits of brightness, and this particular one is also a touch screen. Although I will admit, I feel bad for touching it because I don't want fingerprints all over this because it looks so nice and clean right now. You can see here the bezels are pretty small most of the way around. It's got a bit of a chin, but nothing too bad. One thing I had trouble with from time to time is that the screen brightness would get stuck on in full blast. That's probably more of a software thing with Windows. A quick reboot fixed that, but several times that was a productivity killer for me. Probably a battery killer too. Oh yeah, batteries. How was it? Not bad. I'd say I was getting, I don't know, maybe about 3 hours out of it. I am not kind to batteries. I really use my computer, and that sort of thing really pulls on the battery and drains it pretty quickly. Pros and cons. Overall, there's nothing wrong with this laptop. Usually I find one or two things on a computer that makes me say, I wish it did this, or I wish it didn't do this. I actually went back through my notes looking for things to complain about because this review feels too positive. There's gotta be something, right? Maybe the font on the keyboard should be smaller? Okay, fine, that's stupid. Okay, here's one. If I was really gonna nitpick this thing, I would say I wish that the trackpad was larger. What Macs have done with their design is that they've taken the speakers and they've put them along the side. Here, that speaker is right above the keyboard. So what that does is it pushes down the keyboard and gives you less space for the trackpad. But even that is a nitpick because I honestly thought this was one of the best Windows trackpads that I have ever used. I still think Mac trackpads are light years beyond anything I've ever used on Windows, but this one was still really, really good. Trackpads often completely kill a laptop's experience for me. Didn't happen here. I thought it was a great trackpad. So the main con for most folks is definitely coming down to price. This laptop starts around $2,500. The reason is that graphics card and also that build quality. This is using premium materials throughout. Those are all definitely factors that add to the cost of this laptop. If you don't want or need that level of graphics card, HP also has some other things in the Zbook line that are considerably cheaper that are worth checking out, and those options will save you a lot of money. So this laptop is for people who spend 10 hours a day on their computer and want a great experience, and I think this really delivers. It's rare to see this level of quality in a Windows laptop, so I'm not surprised that it costs so much. So is this laptop for you? If you need power and portability, this is really good. I've also been using the Acer Concept D7 Pro, which is coming out in a few weeks. I'll probably have a review for that as well. It's comparable to this in many, many ways, and both of these computers are great. I do prefer this one so far. It comes down to my personal taste. For me, I like the aluminum and the compact build a little bit better than the Acer. Also, the big thing with the Acer, at least so far in my testing of it, is that that fan spins up a lot more. That's something I see on a lot of Windows laptops. That's something that didn't happen a lot here. It still managed to stay cool, even when I was doing something that was, not even especially crazy, that Acer was spinning up. So that's something that I really, truly appreciated about this laptop. So what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.